Hello, everyone. My name is Sandeep. Um, I'm going to start the presentation. In 1950, owning a car meant freedom. Today, freedom mean never owning one at all. One top and a ride is one tap and a ride is outside your door. One subscription and a garage full of option is your without ever holding a title. This is the shift Kevin Kelly's called accessing, and it is quietly rewriting how the world moves. Okay, I'm going to introduce myself. Um, myself is Sandeep Patel, and welcome back to the show. And I will be hosting today's conversation. We are officially at halfway point of our exploration of Kevin Kelly's The Inevitable. And today's panel is diving into one of his 12 technological force, accessing and applying it to an industry that touches literally every single person listening, transportation. Next, I'm going to introduce our team members. I am joined today by two great panelists, Kenzie and Manoj. First, we have our research head who has spent the past few weeks digging into the data and current trend behind his shift. And second, our analyst led, who has been looking at the real world impact of this force and where it might take us next. Welcome to you both. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Sandeep. I'm excited to get into this one. My focus going in was the numbers. What's actually happening with ride hailing subscription and these new mobility apps?
So I'm Manoj, the panelist too. So glad to be here. This topic hits close to home, literally. Every time I commute, I came at the I came at this from the impact side, what this shift means for people living through it, and where it's likely heading next.
Okay, let's start from the top. For anyone in the audience who hasn't read Kelly's book yet, what exactly does he mean by accessing?
The core idea is pretty simple, but it's a big mental shift. Kelly argues that we're moving away from a world built on ownership, where value comes from possessing a physical thing, toward a world built on access, where value comes from being able to use something whenever you need it, without owning it outright. Think about how we used to buy CDs and DVDs, and now we just stream. That same logic is spreading into physical goods, and transportation is one of the clearest example.
Right, and that exactly why the two of you picked transportation for this deep dive. Walk us through that reasoning.
So yes. So for most people, transportation is access to something. This access economy that show up the first in seeming it's everywhere, ride handling apps, car subscriptions, services, bikes and scooters sharing economy, it's all one app. So when there's a transportation isn't just for good example of Kelly's thesis, it might be the proof of it.
So tell us, what have you actually found so far
The
in your
current finding
research?
summary.
So, a few things stood out. First, ride hailing has basically normalized the idea of paying per trip instead of owning the vehicle behind it. Second, car subscription models, companies letting you swap vehicles month to month instead of leasing or buying a car, are growing fast, especially among younger drivers in cities. Um, and third, we are seeing mobility as a service apps that combine public transit, bike shares, and ride hailing into a single monthly plan. It's the Netflix model, but for getting around the city.
Yes, so what I found interesting is who's driving the ships intended. It is concentrated in the dense urban areas and it skews toward the younger generations who are far less likely to see car ownership as a status symbol the way older generations did. For a lot of them, a car is just overhead insurance, parking and maintenance, and access-based transportations removes all of that.
All right. And did you find anything that really puts that shift in perspective?
The clearest signal was how many major automakers themselves have launched their own subscription arms in the past few years. That's telling when the companies that make money selling cars start building products designed to be accessed rather than owned. It's a sign they see where demand is hitting and not just where it's been.
All right. Next is challenges and surprises. Now, research never goes exactly as planned. What challenges or surprises came up along the way?
So I got this. So it is like honestly, the biggest surprise was how uneven this shift is. Is done in dense cities, access-based transportation is thriving, but steps outside those cities and the infrastructure just isn't there. Fewer rides, hailing drivers, no scooter networks, spotty transport. So, assessing in transportation is really a story about density, not a universal replacement for ownership everywhere.
I ran into a different challenge data. It's surprisingly hard to find consistent apples to apples numbers on ownership trends across different cities and countries because everyone measures it differently. And digging deeper, I was also struck by how much personal data these access platforms collect just to function. Every ride, every trip pattern, all logged. That wasn't something I expect to run into researching a transportation topic, but it's tightly connected to accessing.
Wow, that's a good point. Access almost always comes bundled with tracking. Did that change how you to think about the trade-off?
Yeah, I did. Honestly, going in, I framed this purely as an convenience versus cost question. But the more we dig in, the more it becomes a convenience versus privacy question too. You are not just giving up the hassle of ownership, you are handing a company a detailed map of everywhere you go to.
All right. Next is initial thoughts on results. So, raining everything you have found, where do you land? Is this a net positive or negative shift?
I said it's genuine positive on balance. It lowers the barrier to mobility for people who couldn't otherwise afford a car, and fewer privately owned vehicles sitting idle most of the day could mean less congestion and lower emissions over the time.
So in this, I would like push back a little on the net positive framing, not on the environmental piece, but on whose benefits. The entire model runs on smartphones, apps, and digital payment systems. So if you don't have the reliability of internet access or bank payment, you're locked out of the exact system that's supposed to be more inclusive. And a lot of the labors behind this, the drivers are working in much more precious, less protective way than a traditional job. So the convenience for the riders comes with the real trade-offs for the people providing the access.
That's a great tension so sit with. Convenience for some potentially built on precarity for others. Next is future shape predictions. Last question for you both is where does this go from here?
Mm. So I think we are handling towards autonomous vehicles fleets that are very individually owned at all. You will just summon one and it's belong to a fleet operator, not a person. Combine that with mobility as a service app, and I could see private car ownerships becoming the exact in the major cities within the next decade or two rather than the default.
I would add one caveat though. I don't think ownership disappears everywhere. In lower density and rural areas, a personal vehicle is still going to be the only practical option for a long time. So the real future probably isn't access replaces ownership. It's a hybrid where access dominates in cities and ownerships persist everywhere else.
All right. So, do you think regulations keep pace with any of this?
That's probably the biggest question mark. Cities are still catching up ride hailing, and autonomous fleets will raise a whole new set of questions liability insurance, labor, whoever writes those rules first will shape how fast this future actually arrives.
All right. So, next is key takeaways. Before we wrap, let's pull this together. If someone only remembers four things from today, what should they be?
One, transport transportation proves Kelly's thesis better than almost any other industry because the cost and hassle of ownership make it natural. First mover toward access. Two, this really a density story. It thrives in cities and struggles everywhere else.
Mhm. Yeah. And I add that like three convenience comes at a cost. The same platform that lower the barrier to mobility also lean on gig labor and collect detailed location data. For the future isn't all not or nothing except access to domain dense cities while ownership holds on a rural and low density areas.
Okay, a hybrid future, not a total takeover. That's a great summary. And I'll be closing this. That's a great note on close on. Access is not erasing ownership, it's redrawing where ownership still makes sense. Thank you both for breaking this down so clearly.